I am very excited for today's episode because I'm going to be sharing with you a very easy, yet very deep and effective protocol that will help you better serve your clients' needs, help you bring more of your wisdom and intuition to your client work, and most importantly, it will help you co-create better results with your clients so that they reach more of their goals and then love you for being the person who helped support them to do that. But before we get to this post-session protocol, here's a reminder that the 4-week Navigating Client Resistance Intensive is starting in less than 2 weeks. If you haven't yet stepped in, but it's been calling to you, now is a really good moment to do it. The training is one of a kind in the transformational industry, and for anyone, a new practitioner or very seasoned practitioner who wants to understand their clients and themselves better, and who wants to be even more effective at moving through tough obstacles. So the link to Navigating Client Resistance is in the show notes. I'd be honored if you would go and check it out. Okay, now for the post-session protocol that will help you improve your client work. If you are anything like me, you're doing the work that you do because you want to help others, because you want to be part of people's lives as they stretch towards their goals, as they transform their habits, and as they learn to love themselves more deeply. And of course, having your transformational skills and techniques in tip-top shape is vital to be able to do all of this and to help you go deeper and more potent with your clients. You absolutely need the transformational techniques. And this is why we learn dozens of those techniques and skills in the Sacred Depths Transformational Practitioner Training. But for today, I want to share with you a different kind of tool that is really helpful when it comes to doing incredible client work. It's a post-session protocol that is helpful for your client work in general, but it's also especially helpful if you leave a client session wondering if you did your best job, or if there were important threads in the session that didn't get addressed, or if you leave a session wondering what you might have missed in the session. So this protocol is about taking a few minutes to assess your client sessions after they happen and to assess them in a very particular way. In other words, this is about asking yourself questions that will take you deeper into your own inner wisdom, your own self-awareness, your own understanding of your client's situation, and then lead you to know what to do or say next to support your clients and their growth. And before we go any further, I want to mention that in a way, today's episode is a companion to episode number 12, where I broke down some things that I do before my client sessions to be able to bring my full presence and wisdom and support and make my client sessions as incredible as possible. I didn't even plan it this way, but as I was preparing for today's episode, all of a sudden it struck me that we've kind of got bookends with episode 12 of, with things to do before, and then this episode, which is all about what to do after a client session. So again, that's episode 12 if you want to hear what I recommend doing before your client session. All right. So in this post-session assessment, there's lots of different things you can do and questions you can ask yourself. And I'm going to share with you 3 of my favorites. And I recommend not just thinking about each of these questions, but actually journaling on them, writing out answers. Here's the first question. What is my inner wisdom telling me about this client and about what they need next? What is my inner wisdom telling me about this client and what they need next? This question may seem like an obvious one to you, but it's also such an important question. One of the many tools that I teach in the Sacred Depths Transformational Practitioner Training when it comes to listening skills is to listen to your client, but also to listen to yourself. The best and deepest kind of listening for practitioners comes in the dance of both, in the dance of listening to your client and then also listening to yourself. So long as your filters are checked, and it does take work to learn how to check your filters, then your curiosity, your inclinations, your intuitions, your visions, and your concerns can provide vital information for you to know how to lead your client or how to acknowledge your client or what to ask your client or what to create awareness around with your client, etc. So let me give you some examples. So when you ask yourself again, the question is, what is my inner wisdom telling me about this client and what they need next? You may end up writing out an answer like, my inner wisdom is telling me that she may be scared about the actions that we co-created, and she needs some extra follow-up between now and our next session. Or maybe after a session, you end up journaling. My inner wisdom is telling me that my client isn't fully seeing how amazing her accomplishment is. And it would really benefit her to be seen in that accomplishment and celebrate it. Or here's one more example to the question of what is my inner wisdom telling me about this client and what they need next? My inner wisdom is telling me that she's not ready for X goal, right? Whatever the goal is for doing internet dating. First, she needs to work with her fear of Y, right? Her fear of abandonment, etc. So hopefully, as you can see just from these few examples to this question, is that such important information can come through that will really help you understand more where your client is at and how to support them to move forward. And again, asking yourself this question, what is my inner wisdom telling me about this client and what they need next? It's so obvious, right? But here's the thing. Way too many practitioners tend to overlook what their inner wisdom is telling them about their client because they're too caught up in their own stuff, in performing well, in sounding smart, in being validated, in taking over responsibility, etc. And by asking these questions, this really then becomes a process for you as the practitioner to slow down, to transcend some of the unhelpful thoughts and worries in your head so that you can really tune into your inner wisdom and listen better to what is actually happening for your clients. And so this leads us to question number 2 for your post-session protocol that you can journal on. I really love this next one. I love all 3, but in particular, I love this next one. What do I notice about my energy, my beliefs, and my fears as I moved through the session? I'll share that again. What do I notice about my energy, my beliefs, and my fears as I moved through the session? In Sacred Depths, when I train practitioners to be exceptional at what they do, we don't only look at techniques, right? We don't only look at techniques like how to help clients befriend their fear, or how to support clients off of the wheel of self-sabotage, or how to work with shadow, etc. All of those techniques are very powerful and important for sure. And I lead my students through them step by step to learn how to do them. But the core foundational piece behind being a cream of the crop practitioner in any situation, and no matter what technique you use, the most essential piece is being really conscious about the energy that you're bringing to the session and being super aware of the fears, the beliefs, and the limiting factors that you are holding in session. And so that's why this assessment question of what do I notice about my energy, my beliefs, and my fears as I move through the session, that's why this question can be so powerful. So, for example, recently on a coaching practicum call where a Sacred Depths student was practice coaching and then receiving feedback from me in the group, because we do this a lot in Sacred Depths. After we learn skills and techniques, we have these practicum calls. So again, it was a call where a student had practice coached and then was receiving feedback. I asked this student who had just done the practice coaching this very question that I am asking each of you. Again, what do you notice about your energy, your beliefs, your fears as you moved through the session? And here is what the Sacred Depths student who had just coached said. Well, I noticed that I was nervous while I was coaching, and the nervousness had me moving at a quicker pace than I would have liked. If I wouldn't have been scared of not getting my client to a resolution, I would have moved slower and created more space around each statement and question that I asked. And I am pretty positive that that would have allowed my client to go much deeper in the session. Bingo, right? This is such a valuable insight when we just start to reflect on what we notice about our energy, our beliefs, and the fears that come up through our sessions. This is very much related to what I call the energetics of the coaching relationship. And it's a theme that we keep on coming back to in many different ways in Sacred Depths, because again, what you are bringing as a practitioner is bar none to being able to support your clients. And this question that we've just been looking at these last few minutes, it's a great place to start in terms of an exploration of your own energetics. Okay, this brings us to question number 3 that you might want to consider journaling on after client sessions. Here it is. What didn't I share with my client that I would have liked to share? I'll say that again. What didn't I share with my client that I would have liked to share? So this question can be a follow-up to question number 1 that we looked at earlier. And again, that question is, what is my inner wisdom telling me about this client and what they need next? Or it's a question that can stand on its own. And this is basically an opportunity for you to take stock of what might have been missing from the session or what your client still needs to hear. Once you clarify this, once you clarify if there was anything that you didn't share that you would have liked to share, or that you didn't ask that you would have liked to ask, then you can choose to either save it for your next session or to communicate it with your client before your next session, for example, via email or Voxer or whatever ways you generally communicate with your clients in between sessions. Sometimes practitioners can feel like it's a weakness to not have shared everything that was meant to be shared in the session itself. But I want to tell you, I disagree wholeheartedly. In fact, it can often be even more powerful to anecdote a session a day or 2 later with a new insight, right? To follow up with a client after they've had time to process what has come through a session, to be in touch with them a day or 2 later and share another insight or question. Not to mention, when you do this, it also shows your client that you're thinking about them in between your sessions. And this is one of the many, many, many values that I consider coaching to bring, is that it's not just about session by session, it's about the fuller container that we're holding for and with our clients, even in between sessions. All right. I hope that these 3 questions that I've posed are getting you excited. And I'm going to repeat them one more time. Question number 1, what is my inner wisdom telling me about this client and what they need next? Question number 2, what do I notice about my energy, my beliefs, and my fears as I move through the session? And question number 3, what didn't I share with my client that I would have liked to share? So I highly recommend, again, starting to journal on these 3 questions after your sessions. And I'll mention that the more that you practice looking and reflecting on these questions after your sessions, then eventually it's going to become habit for you. And you'll just start to automatically, in the back of your mind, be aware of these questions during your client sessions themselves, which is incredibly valuable. The other little bonus thing that I'll toss for today is that these 3 questions that we've broken down today, they are also really valuable to ask yourself after a sales call. Reflecting in this way after your sales conversations will help you improve your sales skills and also let you know how to follow up with the prospect you just spoke to. So I cannot wait for you to give this a try after your client sessions, after your sales calls. As always, I would love to hear from you. Let me know how it goes. Let me know what insights come through. You can always share in our community Facebook group, the Coaching Revolution. I'll make sure the link to that is in our show notes. And before I say goodbye to you today, I want to remind you one more time about the Navigating Client Resistance Intensive. It's coming up. I would be honored to have you there. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please, please consider sharing it with a friend. The best way for me to get the word out about the podcast and everything that I share in it to help practitioners is for you to let others know. And so I thank you for that in advance. Have a great day.